Part 1. The divorce papers arrived with my engagement cake. The divorce papers arrived on the same silver tray as my engagement cake. I was standing beneath the crystal ceiling of the Larkspur Grand Hotel, wearing a pearl dress I had not chosen, while two waiters rolled a 7-tier cake toward the stage. On top of it were sugar roses, a gold ribbon, and a tiny fondant groom that looked nothing like my husband. My stepmother, Marissa Vale, lifted a champagne glass and smiled at 300 guests. Tonight, my daughter Serafina begins the life she should have had from the start, she said. Then my father placed the cream folder beside the cake knife and whispered, "Sign before Nathaniel's family arrives. Do not embarrass us again." In my first life, I signed before the first toast. I signed because the guests were watching, because my father had not called me daughter in public for months, because everyone said my secret marriage to Callum Reed was a childish mistake that had already cost the Vale family too much. Callum sat at the staff table near the service doors that night, wearing the only black suit he owned, while my family announced my new engagement to Nathaniel Black, the investor's son who promised to save Vale Medical Devices from bankruptcy. I did not look at Callum when I signed. I told myself not looking was mercy. By midnight, Nathaniel's family had my company shares as marriage security. By winter, Vale Medical was stripped and sold for parts. By spring, Nathaniel called me a used bride in front of his friends. Callum disappeared, and only after I lost everything did I learn the Larkspur Grand Hotel, the Black family's debt, and half the acquisition chain belonged to him. Then I woke up with the cake rolling toward me again. Same chandelier light, same pearl dress, same cream folder, same guests leaning forward to see whether the disgraceful daughter would finally correct her embarrassing marriage. My left hand was bare because Marissa had taken my wedding ring during dress fitting, saying no bride wore yesterday's mistake to a new engagement. But I remembered the weight of it. I remembered Callum's quiet face at the staff table. I remembered the security camera above the cake station and the hotel event contract that my family had signed without reading the ownership clause. This time. I looked at the divorce folder and asked, "Is the cake camera live?" My father's smile died first. Edmund Vale was elegant in the expensive way weak men become elegant when stronger women arrange them. He had gray at his temples, a voice that made bankers feel trusted, and a talent for treating me like a legal asset with pulse. "Serafina," he said softly, "do not start." Marissa placed a hand on my arm, her nails pressed through the silk. "Sweetheart, this is a celebration." I looked at the folder. "Then why did you bring divorce papers to the dessert table?" The nearest guests went quiet. The waiters froze with the cake between them. Nathaniel Black, my chosen replacement groom, stood near the stage in a white dinner jacket, smiling like a man who had already counted the dowry. At the far end of the ballroom, Callum lifted his head. He sat at the staff table exactly where he had in my first life, half hidden by a column and a floral arrangement too large to be tasteful. The seating card in front of him did not say husband. It did not even say guest. It said vendor overflow. My family had done that deliberately. They wanted him close enough to witness the divorce and far enough to be mistaken for someone paid to carry plates. He did not look humiliated. That was the thing I missed before. Callum had a stillness that made cruelty reveal itself. He watched me as if the answer mattered, but not because he needed rescue. Because he wanted to know whether I would rescue myself. I reached for the folder. Father exhaled in relief. Marissa's smile returned. Nathaniel straightened his cuffs. In my first life, this was where the room swallowed me. Tonight, I opened the folder slowly and read the title out loud. Voluntary Dissolution of Confidential Marriage and Release of Spousal Claims. The word voluntary floated above the cake like a bad perfume. I looked toward the hotel staff captain. Please note that the document was placed in front of me during a public engagement announcement, beside a cake for a different groom, before I received independent counsel. Marissa laughed lightly. She is nervous. Brides become dramatic. Divorced women cannot be brides until the divorce is valid, I said. And pressure does not become consent because the napkins match. Nathaniel's mother made a thin sound from the front table. Good. The Black family cared about appearances more than solvency. They had come tonight to collect my shares quietly, not to watch the old marriage create paperwork. Father leaned close enough that only the nearest microphone should have caught him. Unfortunately for him, the nearest microphone belonged to the hotel live stream station. Sign it, he said, or I will have Callum removed before the main course. In my first life, that threat broke me. I thought being removed from the room would be another shame Callum had to carry because of me. Tonight, I turned my head toward camera 7 and repeated clearly. My father just threatened to remove my legal husband from the hotel unless I sign. Please preserve the audio. The room did not gasp. It sharpened. There is a difference. A gasp ends quickly. Sharpness stays. Guests looked from me to father, from father to Callum, from Callum to the vendor overflow card on his table. A hotel manager I did not know in my first life stepped away from the wall and touched the earpiece at her collar. I knew her name now. Miriam Holt, General Manager of the Larkspur Grand. In 3 hours, she would call Callum Chairman Reed in front of the same guests who thought he was staff. For now, she simply said, the hotel preserves all event audio when a legal dispute is stated on camera. Father went still. Marissa's fingers tightened around her glass. Nathaniel's smile flickered. I picked up the pen. Callum stood halfway across the room, but did not move toward me. That was his gift and his flaw. He had always let me choose. In a family that stole choices and called it protection, his restraint had sometimes felt like distance. Tonight, it felt like trust. I wrote on the signature page in clean block letters, presented under public family pressure, marriage not voluntarily dissolved, hotel security and contract records requested. Then I signed my name beneath that note, not beneath their lie. Father reached for the page. I lifted it away and handed it to Miriam Holt. Please scan this into the hotel dispute file, I said. The engagement cake stood between us, perfect and untouched. For the first time, I saw exactly what it was. Not a celebration. Evidence with frosting. Part 2. They seated my husband with the staff. The Larkspur Ballroom had been designed to make people believe money could become weather. Gold light drifted from the ceiling. White orchids climbed the pillars. A string quartet played near the terrace doors, gentle enough to make betrayal feel tasteful. My family had rented the whole floor because Nathaniel Black's family liked public obedience. They wanted to see me trade my hidden husband for their son in front of bankers, suppliers, doctors, and shareholders who still thought the Vale name meant stability. What they did not know was that stability had already left the building. It had been sold in pieces, mortgaged twice, and tied to a hotel contract signed by people too arrogant to read the owner line. Miriam Holt took the signed page from me without blinking. I will have this scanned, she said. Father blocked her path. This is a family matter. Miriam's eyes moved to the cake, the guests, the cameras, and finally to the seating card that called my husband vendor overflow. Then it should not have been staged at a public hotel event, she said. I liked her immediately. In my first life, I had mistaken hotel staff politeness for obedience. Tonight, I understood the difference between people serving a room and people owning their record of it. Father stepped aside because 300 guests were watching, and he still believed dignity could be recovered later if he looked patient now. Marissa recovered faster. She always did. Everyone, please enjoy the appetizer course while Serafina takes a moment to collect herself, she announced. Her voice warmed the room like a blanket placed over a stain. Guests shifted back into motion, grateful for instruction. Plates appeared, wine poured, conversations resumed in lowered tones. Nathaniel approached me with his best investor smile. He was handsome in a polished, vacant way. Perfect teeth, smooth, dark hair, a watch chosen to be noticed from across a table. In my first life, I thought his confidence meant his family could save ours. Later, I learned it was the confidence of a man spending borrowed money inside a rented narrative. Serafina, he said, you are making this harder than necessary. I looked past him at Callum's table. A young waiter was trying to remove the vendor overflow card, but Callum stopped him with a small motion. He left it there. Smart man. Pain becomes useful when labeled by the people who caused it. Which part? I asked Nathaniel. The forced divorce, the fake engagement, or the seating chart? His jaw tightened. Callum understands the arrangement. Did you ask him? Men like him understand without being asked. That sentence landed better than any accusation I could have made. The hotel microphone beside the cake was still on. Nathaniel realized it a breath too late. In my first life. Nathaniel had been careful until after the ceremony. He touched my elbow, called me brave, told me he admired women who put family first. Then, after my shares transferred, he became honest. He said Callum had done me a favor by disappearing. He said women with secret marriages should be grateful anyone respectable wanted them. He said I should stop talking about work, because wives who came with damaged histories were most attractive when quiet. I remembered every sentence. Rebirth did not make me cruel. It made my memory organized. I smiled at him. If Callum understands the arrangement, he can hear it from you. Nathaniel's eyes narrowed. What? I gestured toward the staff table. Go explain why my legal husband is seated under vendor overflow while you stand beside my engagement cake, Marissa whispered. Serafina. I kept my gaze on Nathaniel. You came here to replace him. Surely you can say that with witnesses. The front tables had gone quiet again. Nathaniel hated that. He enjoyed audiences only when they were arranged for applause. He looked toward his father, Lionel Black, who sat with a hard mouth and a lender's eyes. Lionel gave the smallest nod. Proceed. Damage control through dominance. Men like Lionel had used it for decades. Nathaniel walked across the ballroom. The quartet faltered for half a measure. Callum remained seated. He wore a charcoal suit, not expensive at first glance, but cut with a restraint that now made Nathaniel's white jacket look theatrical. The vendor overflow card stood between them like a tiny confession. Nathaniel stopped in front of him. Mr. Reed, he said, this situation has become uncomfortable for everyone. Serafina's family is correcting an old arrangement. You will be compensated for your cooperation. A waiter near the wall froze. A woman at table 4 lifted her phone and pretended to check a message while recording. Callum looked at Nathaniel's hand, then at his face. "Compensated for my marriage?" he asked. Nathaniel smiled thinly. "For your discretion." Callum's voice stayed calm. Discretion was when I did not object to being introduced as a family friend for 3 years. This is purchase. A ripple moved through the room. In my first life. I never heard Callum say that. I had signed too quickly. I had saved everyone the discomfort of hearing the right word. "Tonight," Nathaniel said, "do not overvalue yourself." That was the second proof object, delivered by the groom they preferred. Callum glanced toward me, not asking for rescue, just confirming I had heard. Miriam returned with a tablet. "Miss Vale, the scan is complete. The hotel dispute file has been opened," Father said. "You have no authority to open a dispute file against my event." Miriam looked at the tablet. "The event contract grants the hotel authority when a guest claims coercion, when a legal spouse is removed, or when the event is used to execute a contested family document." Marissa's expression sharpened. "What contract?" Miriam looked almost sympathetic. "The Larkspur Grand Event Use and Reputation Protection Agreement, signed by Marissa Vale at 9:14 a.m. last Tuesday." Marissa had signed so many contracts while shopping for humiliation that she forgot paper has a spine. I held out my hand. "May I see the seating chart attached to that agreement?" Father snapped. "No!" Miriam handed it to me. Beautiful. The chart was printed on ivory paper with gold table numbers. Table 1, Black Family. Table 2, Vale Executive Board. Table 3, Lenders. Table 4, Selected Press. Near the service doors, in smaller font, the chart listed Vendor Overflow, Callum Reed. There was a handwritten note beside it, initialed by Marissa. "Keep visible to Serafina. Not near cameras unless needed." I stared at that sentence for a long second. In my first life, the cruelty had felt like fog. Tonight, it had handwriting. I turned the chart toward the room. My stepmother requested that my legal husband be seated as vendor overflow, where I could see him. Marissa laughed too high. "That is not what it means." "Then read the note," I said. She did not move. "Read it, Marissa." The name made several guests look up. I had called her mother in public since I was 12 because Father said it made the family look healed. Tonight, the family could look accurate. Marissa's cheeks flushed. Nathaniel's mother whispered something to Lionel. Callum stood then, very slowly, and picked up the seating card. He turned it so the nearest camera could see the printed words. "Should I remain visible?" he asked. "Or has my usefulness changed?" The room froze around that question. Not fully. Not yet. The true freeze would come later, when the hotel owner line appeared on the screen. But this was the first crack in the evening's costume. Father had built the banquet to show I was finally obedient. Instead, he had made a gallery of proof objects: the divorce folder, the engagement cake, the vendor card, the seating chart, the contract clause, Nathaniel's offer of compensation. I felt the old fear rise, then settle. Fear was not gone. It was simply no longer in charge. I looked at Callum across the ballroom. "Stay where they put you," I said softly. "Let everyone remember the table." His mouth curved by less than a smile. "As my wife wishes," he said. And for the first time all night, my family flinched at the word wife. Part 3. I signed where the cameras could see. The banquet tried to continue because expensive rooms hate admitting they have become evidence. Soup arrived in shallow bowls. Waiters placed bread with quiet hands. The quartet restarted, carefully choosing something soft enough to apologize without words. But every conversation now had two layers. The first layer was polite. Beautiful flowers, dramatic young woman, unfortunate family tension. The second layer was sharper. Legal husband at the staff table, divorce papers at the cake. Hotel dispute file, stepmother's seating note, groom offering compensation. I had lived my first life inside the first layer. Rebirth let me hear the second. Father pulled me toward the terrace alcove, not touching my arm hard enough to show from a distance. "You will stop this now," he said. Behind him, city lights shimmered beyond the glass. He had always preferred views that made other people look replaceable. "Stop what?" I asked. "Reading? Asking questions? Refusing to dissolve a marriage beside dessert?" His nostrils flared. "You think Callum can protect you? He has no family, no capital, no place in our world." I watched his face as he said it. In my first life, those words had poisoned me. I believed him because poverty had been described to me as a moral stain since childhood. Now I knew Father could look at a building owned by Callum and still not see him. "If he has no place in our world," I said, "why did you need my signature before Nathaniel arrived?" Father looked toward the ballroom. "Because the Black family requires clean terms." Clean means unmarried? Clean means useful. There, the whole family philosophy in one sentence. I smiled, not warmly. "Then let us be useful in public." I stepped past him before he could answer. When I returned to the cake table, Miriam had placed a second copy of the divorce packet on a small stand beneath camera 7. The red recording light was visible. Marissa looked furious. Nathaniel looked annoyed. Lionel Black looked alert. Lionel understood documents. That made him more dangerous and more likely to betray panic early. I picked up the pen again. The guests leaned forward with the ugly relief people feel when they think a scene is finally becoming entertainment. "I will sign receipt of the packet," I said clearly. "I will not sign dissolution." Marissa moved so quickly her bracelet struck the table. "That is not acceptable." "Then you should have scheduled a negotiation instead of a cake." Nathaniel's mouth tightened. "Serafina, your family needs this merger." "What merger?" I asked. "The public story is engagement. Do not be childish." "Then do not use romance as collateral and call me childish for noticing." Lionel Black rose from his seat. The room gave him attention instantly because he had the kind of old lender posture that made everyone wonder whether they owed him something. "Miss Vale," he said, "our families are attempting to solve a serious financial problem. Your attachment to Mr. Reed is unfortunate, but sentiment cannot guide corporate survival." I turned to him. "What financial problem?" Father hissed my name. Lionel paused. He had expected shame. Shame makes people skip the numbers. I did not. "Vale Medical requires strategic capital," he said, "and Blackstone Private Ventures is prepared to provide it after your marital status and share control are clarified. So the investment depends on my divorce. It depends on clean governance. And my shares." Lionel's smile thinned. "Your shares are part of the proposed family alignment." I looked at the camera. "Please note that the proposed engagement is tied to my share control in my first life." I did not know the word collateral until Nathaniel used it after our wedding. He said my shares had been pledged against Blackstone's bridge loan, and if I behaved, I might keep a courtesy title. I had signed away the one thing grandfather left me because everyone called it family rescue. Tonight, I opened my clutch and took out a folded page Nora Chen had sent me that morning. Not the same Nora from the Hartwell story, of course. This Nora was Nora Fielding, a hotel trust counsel who handled my grandfather's old minority stake in Larkspur Hospitality before he died. Good lawyers seem to gather around dying grandfathers like final antibodies. The page was a debt notice tied to Blackstone Private Ventures. I placed it beside the cake knife. Is this the strategic capital? Lionel's face changed, only for a second, but lender faces are trained. A second is a confession. Nathaniel stepped forward. Where did you get that? From a public filing. Not entirely true. Public if one knew which shell entity to search and which hotel counsel to ask. Blackstone Private Ventures is in default on a hospitality-backed bridge facility. The creditor can accelerate the debt if Blackstone enters a new collateral agreement without disclosure. Lionel's eyes moved toward Miriam. Miriam's expression remained neutral. Which meant dangerous, Marissa whispered. This is not relevant. It is relevant if you are selling my marriage to a family that is already in default. The room shifted again. Guests who had admired Lionel's posture now looked at his cufflinks differently. Money is beautiful until it smells borrowed. Father grabbed the paper. This is private financial information. It is a default notice, I said. Private would be you discussing it before asking me to pledge my shares. Nathaniel laughed. You think Callum told you this? He would not understand a bridge facility if it hit him in the face. The sentence was so perfect, I almost thanked him. Across the room, Callum tilted his head. Miriam's hand moved to her earpiece again. Someone above us, perhaps in the hotel's control office, was making sure every camera had the angle. I signed the receipt line of the divorce packet and wrote beneath it, received at public event, dissolution refused, replacement engagement tied to share transfer and undisclosed Blackstone default. Then I placed the pen down. Now you have my signature, I said. Father stared. This is worthless. No, Miriam said. It is part of the event record. Marissa turned on her. You are staff. Miriam's eyes cooled. I am general manager. Then manage your staff and stop interfering. In my first life. Marissa had spoken that way to every person wearing a name badge. Tonight, half the hotel staff was watching from the walls. Callum was still at the vendor table, still holding the seating card. Miriam lifted the tablet. The hotel has received a legal objection, a disputed spousal document, and a claim that the event is being used to pressure a share transfer. Under the contract, the hotel may pause ceremonial proceedings until legal status is clarified. Nathaniel's mother stood. This is outrageous, Lionel said. We can move the event elsewhere. Callum spoke for the first time from his table, voice carrying without effort. No, you cannot. Everyone turned. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The Larkspur Grand holds the deposit, the event security file, the broadcast equipment, and the signed reputation protection agreement. Moving now would create a cleaner record of flight. Nathaniel sneered. And you know this because you have been reading the staff manual? Callum looked at him. Among other documents, I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt the old ache of 3 years. How many documents had Callum read while I thought he was avoiding me? How many doors had he opened quietly because I had been taught not to ask where they led? That question was for later. Public rooms are not where a marriage heals. Public rooms are where lies stop multiplying. I turned back to the guests. The engagement toast can continue after one question is answered. Father looked exhausted. What question? Who benefits if I divorce my husband tonight? I looked at Nathaniel. The man receiving my hand. I looked at Lionel. The family receiving my shares. I looked at Marissa. The woman who arranged the seating chart. I looked at Father. The chairman who needs all of this finished before the hotel contract is read aloud. The chandelier light trembled over their faces. The cake began to lean slightly under its own sugar weight. Perfect. Even the dessert knew the structure was failing. Part 4. The hotel contract named the wrong groom. Miriam paused the banquet with one sentence and a raised hand. It was almost graceful. The quartet stopped. Servers held their trays at their sides. The ballroom lights softened over the tables, while the stage screen, which had been prepared to show childhood photos of Nathaniel and me, went black. In my first life, that screen had played a montage of my obedience. Me at charity galas, me beside Father at product launches, me smiling next to Nathaniel as if I had not signed away a husband 15 minutes earlier. Tonight, the black screen looked like a closed eye about to open. Father approached Miriam with the calm of a man choosing a servant to ruin. If you disrupt this event, Larkspur Grand will be liable for damages. Miriam tapped the tablet. The contract allows suspension when an event is used to execute contested legal documents under duress. You keep saying contract. Marissa's voice shook. We are the client. Miriam looked toward the projection booth. Please display section 9. The screen lit. Large white letters appeared. Not perfectly readable from the back, but clear enough in the front rows. Larkspur Grand Event Use and Reputation Protection Agreement. Section 9. Coercion, legal disputes, and spousal removal. The guests did not need to read every word. The title did the damage. Marissa whispered. I did not approve this, Miriam said. Your initials appear on each page. The screen changed to a scan of Marissa's signature, her elegant M curled like a hook. I remembered her teaching me to sign thank you notes at 13. A woman's handwriting, she said, should show refinement. Tonight, hers showed intent. Section 9 stated that if a host used the hotel to pressure a guest into signing family, marital, or property documents under public threat, the hotel could preserve all audio, video, seating charts, service notes, and contract communications for legal review. It also stated that any attempted removal of a legal spouse during a contested ceremony required written confirmation from hotel ownership. Nathaniel laughed. Hotel ownership? This is absurd. Lionel touched his sleeve. Too late, Nathaniel continued. Because sons raised by debt often mistake confidence for inheritance. This hotel is desperate for Blackstone's event business. They will not risk it over some secret husband who should be grateful he was invited. Miriam's gaze moved to him. Blackstone's event account was suspended this morning. Lionel closed his eyes. The room inhaled. Nathaniel turned. Father? Lionel did not answer. I had not known that detail, and judging from Father's face, he had not known either. That was good. Rebirth gave me memories, not omniscience. A story is stronger when even the heroine discovers proof in real time. The screen changed again. Fourth proof object, the hotel correspondence thread. Marissa's assistant had asked whether Callum Reed could be seated near service access but remain visible to the bride. A Larkspur coordinator had replied that all legal spouses must be listed as guests unless the host signed a special status request. Marissa signed it. The special status request named Callum as vendor overflow. Non-speaking. Non-speaking. The word landed harder than vendor. In my first life, my family had not just placed him at that table. They had written him silent before the event began. Callum stood at the edge of the room now, still holding the card. Non-speaking, he repeated. His voice remained quiet. That made it worse, Nathaniel muttered. You are speaking plenty now. Callum's eyes shifted to him. Only because my wife asked what the table meant. My wife. The second time he said it, the room heard possession in reverse. Not ownership. Recognition. I had been described all night as daughter, asset, bride, alignment, future Mrs., black. Callum used the only word that acknowledged the promise I had been pressured to erase. Father turned to me. Are you satisfied? You have humiliated everyone. I looked at the screen showing Marissa's non-speaking request. No, I have clarified everyone. You think you can go home with him after this? His voice sharpened. You think a hotel file changes the fact that Vale Medical is dying? There it was, the fear beneath the command. For years, Father had hidden debt under discipline. He made me believe my marriage was the stain when the company had been bleeding through his own hands. I stepped toward him. If Vale Medical is dying, why did you not tell the board? Because panic kills value. And forced divorce creates value? He did not answer. Lionel Black did. A clean transfer of your shares would have stabilized confidence long enough for our capital to land. I turned. Your defaulted capital. His mouth hardened. You are young. You do not understand timing. I understand a default notice. You understand what someone fed you. He glanced at Callum. Do you know what your husband wants in return? Men who sit quietly for 3 years do not do it for love. They do it because they are waiting to collect. The sentence was clever. It found the bruise Paige had found in the Hartwell story. The old fear that secrecy meant manipulation. I felt it. Then I looked at Callum. He did not defend himself. He watched me decide which voice to trust. In my first life, I would have collapsed into doubt because doubt felt more polite than anger. Tonight, I asked Lionel, "What are you collecting?" He frowned. Excuse me? You are here for my shares. Nathaniel is here for my name. My father is here for capital. Marissa is here for control. You are warning me that Callum may want something? Fine. State what each man in this room is collecting, including yourself. A woman at table 6 murmured. Good question. Lionel's face darkened. Father said, Enough. But enough is not a legal category. Miriam touched her earpiece and looked toward the stage. Ms. Vale, hotel ownership has authorized a full contract disclosure if you request it. Marissa's head snapped toward her. Ownership? Who is ownership? Miriam did not answer. She looked at me. This was the hinge. In my first life, the owner entered after I signed everything. Tonight, I could force the reveal before the papers became a coffin. I looked at Callum. Do you want me to request it? For the first time all night, a flicker of surprise crossed his face. Not because he wanted control, because I had offered him the courtesy my family denied us both. He said, Only if you want the room to know. I turned back to Miriam. Display the ownership authorization. The screen went black for 3 seconds. 3 seconds is long when a room has run out of lies, but not yet received the bill. Nathaniel whispered, This is ridiculous. Lionel did not move. Father stared at Callum as if seeing a shadow take shape. Marissa reached for her pearls. Then the screen lit again, showing a short authorization letter on Larkspur Grand letterhead. Approval granted for disclosure in active coercion dispute. Authorized by Callum Reed, Chairman, Larkspur Hospitality Group. The ballroom went silent so completely that the cake knife sliding a quarter-inch on porcelain sounded like a dropped key. Callum did not move. That was the most devastating part. He did not stand taller, smirk, or announce himself like a man in a cheap victory play. He simply existed in the new information. Vendor overflow, non-speaking, chairman. The room had to hold all three labels at once and decide which one had been true. Nathaniel looked at the seating card in Callum's hand. Father looked at the authorization letter. Marissa looked at me as if I had betrayed her by knowing a fact she had failed to control. I looked at my husband and understood something that hurt more gently than before. He had not needed the room to know. I had. Part 5. My secret husband owned the banquet hall. Public silence has textures. The first silence after Callum's name appeared was disbelief, bright and brittle. The second was calculation, as guests connected the vendor card to the chairman authorization, the forced divorce to the hotel contract, the Black family default to Larkspur Hospitality. The third silence belonged to my family. It was heavier. It sounded like doors locking. Nathaniel was the first to break it, because pride often moves faster than survival. "This is staged," he said. "You expect us to believe the man at the staff table owns the hotel?" Callum lifted the vendor overflow card. "Your future in-laws expected it. I was following the seating chart." A few people made sounds that almost became laughter before remembering money was in the room. Miriam stepped onto the stage. For clarity, Larkspur Grand Hotel is a property under Larkspur Hospitality Group. Mr. Callum Reed is chairman and controlling owner. Event staff were instructed by the host party to list him as vendor overflow, despite his disclosed legal relationship to Miss Vale. The hotel objected in writing and preserved the correspondence. She said it cleanly, without judgment. That made judgment unnecessary. Marissa looked at the floor. Father looked at Lionel. Lionel looked at the exit. Callum finally walked toward the stage. The route took him past the staff table, past the guests, past Nathaniel, and past the cake where my forced divorce sat under the lights. No one stopped him. I wondered if he had imagined this walk in the first life. Maybe not. Callum did not seem like a man who rehearsed humiliation into revenge. He seemed like a man who kept records because records were safer than fury. He stopped beside me, not in front of me. The choice settled something inside my chest. He could have made the reveal about himself. Instead, he stood where a husband should have stood before the first toast. Lionel recovered enough to speak. "Mr. Reed, our financial issues are separate from this family misunderstanding." Callum looked at him. "Your bridge default is secured against 3 properties managed through a Larkspur debt vehicle. You entered this banquet intending to obtain Miss Vale's shares without disclosing your default to her counsel, or the hotel owner hosting the event. That is not separate. That is convenient." Lionel's face reddened. Nathaniel said, "Careful." Callum turned to him. "You offered to compensate me for my marriage. You should be more careful with verbs." Miriam displayed the Blackstone default letter. 5th proof object. Principal overdue. Cure period expired. Acceleration rights reserved. Attached was an internal Blackstone memo sent to Nathaniel by mistake in the contract package. It said, In plain words, need Vale shares before Reed vehicle accelerates. I heard the room understand it. Vale shares. My shares. The marriage was not romance to them. It was a locked gate they wanted removed before the creditor arrived. Father sank slowly into a chair. He had sold me a rescue plan, built on the debt of the people pretending to rescue us. Marissa whispered, "Edmund, say something." Father stared at the screen. "I did what was necessary." There it was, the family anthem. Necessary. The word that carried every ugly thing adults wanted children to stop questioning. I looked at him. Necessary for Vale Medical? He did not answer. Necessary for the employees? Still nothing. Or necessary because if the board learned you were negotiating with a defaulted investor, they would remove you before you could use my shares as cover? A director from Vale Medical's advisory board, seated at table 2, stood. His name was Dr. Holcomb, in my first life. He signed my removal after Father told him I had become unstable. Tonight, he looked older than I remembered. "Edmund," he said, "is the Blackstone default real?" Father's mouth opened. Lionel answered first. "It is a temporary liquidity issue." Doctor. Holcomb closed his eyes. That was answer enough. Another advisory member stood. Then a lender representative. Then 2 suppliers at the back began whispering urgently into phones. My family's carefully staged engagement banquet became an emergency investor meeting without changing the flowers. That was the beauty of public proof. It did not need a new venue. It transformed the one built for lies. Nathaniel grabbed my wrist. "You little fool," he hissed. Callum's hand closed around Nathaniel's wrist before I could move. Not crushing, not theatrical, just precise. "Remove your hand from my wife." Nathaniel tried to pull away and found he could not. The room saw that too. In my first life, Nathaniel had touched me whenever he wanted to steer me. Elbow, back, wrist, chin. Small ownerships. Tonight, Callum did not rescue me from a dragon. He interrupted a habit. I lifted my free hand and removed Nathaniel's fingers myself. "Do not touch me again," I said. Callum released him only after I did. That distinction mattered to me more than any title. Miriam nodded toward security. 2 staff members stepped closer. Not grabbing Nathaniel, just becoming possible. He looked around and realized the room no longer assumed he belonged at the center. His mother sat down slowly. Lionel began speaking to his attorney. Marissa moved toward me with tears prepared. "Serafina, sweetheart, we were trying to save the family." I turned to the screen where her initials glowed beneath the non-speaking spouse request. "Then read your note." She froze. "What?" "Read the line you wrote beside my husband's name." Her tears slipped. "Do not do this." "You did it before I entered the room. I am only asking you to pronounce your handwriting." Miriam enlarged the seating chart. "Keep visible to Serafina. Not near cameras unless needed." Marissa read it in a whisper. Miriam asked, "For the recording, please read clearly." In my first life. Marissa made me apologize for my voice shaking after I signed the divorce. Tonight. Her voice shook around her own sentence. "Keep visible to Serafina. Not near cameras unless needed." The words sounded smaller than she was. That was what public exposure does to calculated cruelty. It returns it to its true size. Father stood abruptly. "Enough, Callum. Name your price." The room went colder. Callum looked at him for a long second. "For what?" "For silence. for cooperation, for whatever performance this is. I almost pitied Father then. He still thought everything was a price problem. Callum said, "You cannot afford what you already spent." Father scoffed. "Everyone has a price." "Yes," Callum said. "Yours was your daughter." No one moved. I felt the sentence enter the room and stay there. Not loud, not dramatic. Final. Then Callum turned to me. "Serafina, do you want the engagement terminated publicly or through counsel?" He asked me. In front of everyone, after revealing he owned the room, he asked. Father had ordered. Nathaniel had grabbed. Marissa had arranged. Lionel had calculated. Callum asked. That was why page-style accusations could not land. Power is not measured only by what a person can force. It is measured by what they refuse to force, when forcing would be easy. I looked at the cake, the divorce papers, the guests, the screen, the vendor card still in Callum's hand. Publicly. I said, "They made the sale public. They can watch it fail in the same room." Part 6. The banquet became a debt hearing. Miriam did not announce the engagement termination. She handed me the microphone. That small choice corrected the shape of the whole night. My family had built an event where everyone spoke about me. Father about duty, Marissa about elegance, Lionel about survival, Nathaniel about clean terms. Even Callum, with all his quiet power, had waited for me to decide. The microphone felt heavier than I expected. Not because I feared speaking, because for years, my voice had been trained to become useful only after someone else's sentence. I looked at the guests, at the stage screen, at the cake sagging slightly under too much sugar, and said, "There will be no engagement tonight." The words traveled cleanly. Nathaniel's mother covered her mouth. Lionel's attorney began typing. Father stared at me like I had set fire to a hospital instead of refusing to be sold. I continued. The divorce packet presented beside this cake is disputed. My marriage to Callum Reed remains valid. Any proposed transfer of my shares tied to engagement with Nathaniel Black is rejected. Any claim that I consented tonight should include the full hotel recording, the seating chart, the Blackstone default notice, and the threat made by my father before camera 7. I lowered the microphone. My hand did not shake until after the last word. Callum noticed. He did not touch me in front of everyone. He simply moved half an inch closer. "Doctor," Holcomb stepped toward Father. "Edmund, the advisory board requires an emergency meeting tomorrow morning," Father said. "This is family theater." "Doctor," Holcomb looked at the screen. "No, this is a governance problem." Governance. In my first life, that word had been used against me. Claire. Sorry, Serafina. Cannot govern herself. Serafina's private choices damaged governance. Serafina's unstable attachment creates governance risks. Tonight, the word turned around and faced the people who taught it to bite. Father tried to argue, but 2 other advisory members joined Dr. Holcomb. One of them asked whether the board had been informed of Blackstone's default. Father did not answer. Another asked whether my shares had been pledged in draft term sheets. Lionel said those documents were preliminary. Miriam displayed the draft pledge schedule from the event contract attachment. Preliminary looked ugly when projected 12 feet high. Lionel Black's punishment began with phone calls. Men like him do not collapse publicly if they can bleed into private first, his attorney whispered. His lender called. His face hardened. And within minutes, he was no longer negotiating for my shares. He was negotiating for time. Callum's counsel, who had appeared near the ballroom doors without anyone noticing, served a notice of acceleration review. It did not ruin Blackstone immediately. That would have been too easy, too theatrical. It did something better. It made every person in the room understand that Lionel had come to my engagement banquet while hiding a knife at his own throat. Nathaniel heard enough to understand. The white dinner jacket suddenly looked less like a groom's costume and more like a flag of surrender. Nathaniel tried one last time. Serafina, you are emotional. Tomorrow, when you realize what you have done, call me. I almost laughed. Call you for what? Protection. Callum's eyes narrowed, but I answered first. From the defaulted investor who grabbed my wrist and offered to compensate my husband? Nathaniel flushed. You will regret humiliating me. I looked toward the security camera. Please preserve that threat, too. 2 hotel security staff stepped forward. Nathaniel looked at Callum. You think owning a hotel makes you untouchable? Callum replied. No, I think touching my wife after she says no makes you removable. Miriam nodded. Security escorted Nathaniel away from the stage. Not out of the hotel yet, just away from me. The distance felt like oxygen. Marissa's punishment was smaller and sharper. The hotel contract, the seating note, and the special status request were forwarded to Vail Medical's advisory board and to my grandfather's family trust council. She tried to say she had only wanted to avoid confusion. Miriam displayed the email where Marissa's assistant wrote, Mrs. Vail wants Mr. Reed close enough for Miss Serafina to understand the consequence of refusing. Consequence. The word made Marissa cover her mouth. My father looked at her with fury, as if her cruelty had betrayed him by becoming legible. She reached for his sleeve. He stepped away. I watched their alliance fracture around self-preservation and felt no surprise. People who bond over using others rarely stay loyal when the bill arrives. Father's punishment was not immediate removal. It was worse for him. Public uncertainty. The advisory board issued a formal hold on any share transfer involving me until independent review. Vail Medical's lenders requested disclosure of all negotiations with Blackstone. Father lost the ability to use my signature as a bridge before the bridge could be inspected. Every banker in the room saw it happen. Every supplier saw the hesitation. Every guest who had arrived expecting an engagement left with a governance scandal tucked into their phone. Father approached me once after the hold was announced. You have endangered everyone, he said. His face looked carved from disappointment. I used to crumble under that face. Tonight, I asked, which employees knew you were tying their jobs to my divorce? He flinched. Not because he cared about the employees, because he had forgotten they existed in the room. Callum's counsel gave me one more document. It was not romantic. That made it trustworthy. Temporary protective voting notice. It froze any attempt to transfer. Pledge, dilute, or encumber my shares while the coercion dispute was active. In plain English, no one could sell my future while arguing about whether I had agreed. I signed it at a small side table, with Nora Fielding on video call as counsel and Miriam as witness. This time, my signature did what signatures should do. It protected the person writing it. Callum stood at a respectful distance. When Nora asked whether I had been promised anything by him in exchange, I said no. When she asked whether I intended to remain married, I paused. The room seemed to listen even though the question was not for them. I looked at Callum. He did not look hurt by the pause. That almost hurt more. He understood consequences. He understood that public rescue did not erase private silence. "For tonight," I said, "I do not intend to dissolve the marriage. Further personal decisions will not be made under banquet lighting." Nora's mouth softened. "Good answer." Callum lowered his eyes for 1 second, and I saw relief there. Not triumph. Relief. He had not known whether I would leave with him after learning who he was. Fair. I had not known either. The engagement cake was wheeled away untouched. That, more than anything, broke the spectacle. Guests can survive scandal if dessert continues. Without the cake, there was no ceremony left to pretend around. The fondant groom leaned sideways as the waiters pushed it through the service doors. A ridiculous ending for a fake engagement, but fitting. Nathaniel's mother cried quietly into a napkin. Lionel left under council escort. Marissa sat alone at table 1, no longer pretending to host. Father stood near the stage, calling someone who did not answer. Callum and I remained beside the side table. 2 people married in secret, exposed in public, and still carrying the unglamorous work of deciding what truth did next. Part 7. I left with the marriage they tried to sell. After the guests began leaving, the ballroom looked strangely young, without the people. The flowers were just flowers. The stage was a platform. The cake table was a table with sugar smears and a folder mark in the linen. My entire life had been shaped by rooms like this. Rooms where adults used chandeliers to make pressure look like celebration. Tonight, the room had failed them. I stood near the terrace doors and watched staff collect abandoned programs bearing Nathaniel's initials beside mine. A young waiter hesitated before throwing one away, as if my fake future might still be expensive. I said, "Recycle it." He smiled before he could stop himself. Callum joined me with 2 glasses of water. Not champagne. Water. That almost undid me. For 3 years. He had remembered practical things when everyone else cared about symbols. A shawl over my shoulders after late work. Spare keys when Marissa changed the house locks during a charity trip and called it a mistake. Silent repairs to the old sedan I drove because Father said company cars were for visible executives. I used to collect those gestures like crumbs and then hate myself for being grateful. Tonight, with his name on the hotel ownership screen and the room still vibrating from scandal, he offered water. The man was infuriatingly consistent. "How much of tonight did you know would happen?" I asked. He handed me the glass. "I knew your family intended to announce an engagement. I knew Blackstone was in default. I knew Marissa had signed the event contract. But I did not know she had written that note on the seating chart until Miriam showed me the scan." "Did you know they would bring divorce papers?" I suspected. The answer was honest enough to hurt. "And you still sat at the staff table?" He looked toward the empty corner where the vendor card had been. "If I refused, they would move the cruelty into private. If I sat there, the room could see what they chose." I understood the logic. I hated that he had been right. "You could have told me," I said. He nodded. No defense. That made anger harder and more possible. "I should have." "Why didn't you?" He took a long breath. "Because every route to you passed through people who punished you for receiving help. I thought if I waited until I could remove the threat completely, the truth would hurt less. It did not. I know." The simplicity of that nearly broke me open. In my first life. Nathaniel answered pain with arguments. Father answered it with duty. Marissa answered it with correction. Callum answered it by letting the pain remain true. That did not fix everything. It gave fixing somewhere to begin. I looked at my bare left hand. Marissa still had my wedding ring, somewhere in her suite or purse or little box of trophies. "She took the ring," I said. Callum's gaze dropped. I wondered, "You did not ask." "I did not want the first thing I asked after the reveal to be whether you still had proof of me." That sentence hit softly and deep. I stared at him. "Callum." He looked away first. The chairman of Larkspur Hospitality, the man who could freeze a defaulted investor with one notice, still feared being a proof object in his own marriage. I reached into the divorce folder Miriam had returned to me. Between the contested papers and my signed receipt was a small plastic evidence sleeve. Inside lay my wedding ring. Miriam had found it before Marissa could leave. I opened the sleeve. The ring was plain gold, cheaper than everything in the room, and worth more than the rest of it. I did not put it on immediately. That would have made the moment too easy. Instead, I held it in my palm. "I am not wearing this because you own a hotel," I said. "Good," Callum replied. "That would be a terrible reason." "I am not wearing it because you saved me." Also good. "And I am not wearing it because the room finally knows." He waited. That was the answer. Not the hotel, not the money, the waiting. I slid the ring onto my finger, facing outward this time. "I am wearing it because tonight, when you had every advantage, you still asked what I wanted. Do not make me regret that." His expression changed then. Not dramatically. Callum never changed dramatically. But the control loosened around his eyes. "I will not." That is a promise, not a strategy. Yes. And no more secret ownership structures that touch my life without my knowledge. A faint smile. That may require several binders. Then bring several binders. His smile became real for half a second. "Yes, Mrs. Reed." I raised an eyebrow. "Careful. I am still angry." "I know. And I may stay angry for a while." "I can wait." I believed him. That was the problem and the comfort. Father tried to intercept me near the lobby. He had lost the stage, but not the habit. "Serafina," he said, voice low. "Come home. We will discuss this as a family." Behind him, Marissa stood with red eyes and no pearls. The sight might have moved someone kinder or younger. I had been both once. "Which family?" I asked. "The one that seated my husband as vendor overflow, the one that sold my shares to a defaulted investor, or the one that now needs me to calm the lenders?" Father flinched. "You are still my daughter." I looked at him for a long moment. "Tonight, you put a price on that. It was lower than I expected." Marissa whispered. "That is cruel." I turned to her. "No, it is itemized. You taught me the difference." Miriam met us at the front desk with a sealed envelope. Copies of the event record, seating chart, signed note, contract disclosure, and security preservation receipt, she said. "Digital files are with counsel." I accepted it. "Thank you." She glanced at Callum. "Chairman." He nodded. "Miriam?" The staff nearby pretended not to react, but I saw the posture change. Respect is physical before it becomes verbal. I wondered how many people my family had ignored in places they did not own. I wondered how many records existed because staff remember what guests do not. Outside, the night smelled like rain and exhaust. Reporters had gathered behind the velvet ropes because nothing attracts cameras like a ruined engagement involving debt, divorce, and a secret hotel chairman. Flashbulbs burst. Someone called. "Miss Vale, are you still marrying Nathaniel Black?" I stopped. Callum did not pull me forward. He stood beside me and let the question find its owner. I faced the cameras. "No," I said. "I am still married to the man my family tried to seat with the staff," another reporter shouted. "Did you know he owned the hotel?" I glanced at Callum, then back at the cameras. "No, but I knew who threw the first stone. Tonight, the hotel kept the receipt." That line became the clip. By morning, everyone had a version of the story. Some called me cold. Some called Callum a hidden billionaire. Some called it a revenge romance, which missed the point but helped the algorithm. Vale Medical's board called an emergency review. Blackstone's lenders called Lionel. Marissa's seating note became the most expensive sentence she ever wrote. Nathaniel's white jacket appeared in memes beside the words, "compensated for your marriage." I did not watch many of them. I had spent one lifetime being consumed by other people's narratives. This time, I had work to do. At dawn, I returned to the Larkspur Ballroom alone. The cleaning crew had cleared the flowers. The cake was gone. On the staff table, someone had left the vendor overflow card. I picked it up and placed it inside grandfather's old leather notebook with the protective voting notice and my copy of the marriage certificate. Not as a wound, as evidence of a wound that did not get to keep bleeding. When Callum found me, he did not ask if I was ready to forgive him, my father, or the family name. He only asked, "Do you want breakfast?" I looked at the empty room where they had tried to sell my marriage and smiled. "Yes," I said, somewhere without a seating chart. For 3 years, they called my husband an embarrassment. I let them name his table, then watched him own the room,